why it took the state years to flag millions of dollars worth of suspected fraud. The FBI says providers billed Medicaid for helping vulnerable people find housing.
Last week, state and federal agents raided 8 locations in Minnesota while investigating a massive scheme to defraud housing stabilization services, a program designed to help vulnerable people.
Housing Stabilization Services, that's the name of the program, paid out more than $100 million in claims last year alone. That's 40 times what lawmakers initially expected it to cost.
This is the amount of money the state has paid in Medicaid claims to autism treatment providers using your tax dollars.
$700 million. That's how much Medicare money was supposed to go to autistic kids in Minnesota. But instead, it got snatched like a Nintendo 2 on Black Friday. Fake clinics, fake phony sessions, and now FBI raids. And Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, he was apparently napping while the biggest scam in state history played out right under his nose. So we're gonna break down how this mess happened, who's responsible, and why the system that was meant to protect vulnerable kids turned into a gold mine for grifters. Let's get into it.
Yesterday, 5 investigators revealed 85 autism centers in Minnesota are now under investigation.
Minnesota claimed that it wanted to help kids with autism, and on paper, they did the right thing. They launched a Medicaid program in the 2010s called the EIDBI to fund therapy for children on the spectrum. Sounds really noble, obviously, but instead of building a sturdy bridge of support, they basically set up a rickety wooden ramp and hoped no one fell through the cracks. But spoiler alert, everyone fell through the cracks. The whole thing was rolled out like a Silicon Valley beta app, slapped together overnight with no regulation, no user manual, and not a single adult in the room. They skipped the safety checks, the licensing standards, and apparently common sense. It was a government-funded free-for-all. If you had a laptop, a logo, and a printer, you can set up an autism therapy center in Minnesota by Friday and be billing Medicaid by Monday.
This is the amount of money the state has paid in Medicaid claims to autism treatment providers using your tax dollars.
Between 2017 and 2023, this thing ballooned like a really bad crypto coin. Spending exploded from $1 million to over $220 million annually. In total, $700 million is gone. Poof. And the number of clinics from a humble 41 to a chaotic 450 plus clinics. That's not real growth, that is an infestation. And here's the sick part of this entire situation. It's like a punchline to a dark comedy. 1 in 5 of those providers, about 85 of them, are under active investigation for fraud. These were straight up grifters, scammers, out to take as much taxpayer money as possible. Some of these so-called therapy centers were little more than just empty storefronts with Wi-Fi. Before we dive into how these fraudsters game the system, let's talk about how you can beat the internet's system. Ever wonder why your ads suddenly know exactly what you are talking about? Your data is being logged. Your location is being tracked. Your browser's unique fingerprint is stored and shared across many platforms. So if one account gets flagged, they all do. Every website, ad network, and platform is tracking you. What you click, where you go, what device you're on is not just cookies, it's your entire browser profile. If you run multiple accounts or just want to keep your private life private, that's where GoLogin comes in. You can unblock any content, access restricted sites, streaming platforms, and services from anywhere. Full privacy. GoLogin stops websites from tracking you, hiding your IP and browser fingerprint. And you'll be able to have multi-account freedom. You can run separate profiles for work, social, or even your side hustle without any overlap or bans. And with GoLogin, you have 2 gigabytes of free residential proxies included, so you get fast, private access to content worldwide. Click the link in the description or the pinned comment to try GoLogin free today and get 2 gigabytes of proxies. Control your online freedom. Now, let's get back into it. Others were barely disguised money laundromats run by people with no clinical experience, no license, and most important, had no shame.
According to the search warrant, a former employee told the feds, quote, Smart Therapy's owner actively recruited new clients by talking to parents they knew and even knocking on doors in the community and trying to talk parents into getting their kids into autism treatment. Believing Smart Therapy's owners paid parents of clients to bring their children to Smart Therapy.
They billed the government for services that they did not provide. They clocked hours for kids who were never there. One clinic billed over $850,000 for one single child. Let that sink in. Either that child got superpowers from therapy or someone was cooking the books to a crazy degree. Meanwhile, actual families were put on wait lists. Real kids were denied life-changing therapy so scammers can steal from taxpayers to buy the things that they wanted to buy, so they can buy providing no value to society. And where was the oversight? Where was Governor Tim Walz? Maybe he was catching up on reruns or something, because his administration let this madness spiral with their eyes wide shut. No sense, no shame, no audits, no checks, no database tracking who was legit and who was just photoshopping treatment notes. This program was run like an open mic night. Anyone could just show up, perform, no talent required, and you're gonna get paid very, very handsomely. This wasn't just a failure, it was a surrender. Minnesota didn't just get robbed, they left that vault open. They went on vacation and just told these thieves, these scammers, these grifters, hey, help yourself. This level of incompetence and scamming definitely deserves a documentary. And it's definitely not the feel-good kind. This is what happens when feel-good policy meets zero accountability. And now taxpayers and children are stuck paying the price for the grown-ups who couldn't be bothered to read the fine print. How did this scam went down? Step one, you had to make a fake clinic. All it took was to catch a name, a cheap website, and a P.O. box to launch an autism therapy center. No license, no experience required, and basically no medical oversight. People with absolutely zero background in mental health or therapy suddenly became CEOs of so-called autism clinics. This was easier than opening a food truck and was far more lucrative. One former clothing shop just became a clinic overnight. Basically a shell operation, printing fake credentials and therapy plans. If you had a laptop and access to Canva, you were in business. Step two, hire staff. Instead of having trained professionals, they listed teenage cousins, friends from church, even neighbors as behavioral therapists. These weren't just unqualified hires. They were often unaware that they're even being hired. One clinic listed staff who were literally out of the country while they were allegedly treating Minnesota children in person with like no Zoom calls or anything like that, just pure fiction. And they didn't even try to hide it very well. They billed sessions during school hours, on national holidays, and even on weekends. They weren't the smartest grifters here. One therapist was even holding out a full-time job across town while apparently treating 8 kids a day. Step 3, build Medicaid and take as much money as possible. With all the fake clinics and the phantom staff in place, it was time to pay. Clinics submitted bills claiming they provided up to 10 hours of therapy per day per child. 2 clinics alone walked away with $20 million. They billed for services they didn't offer for children that weren't present and on days that schools were closed or children were in class. This was a financial fantasy land, and the state didn't blink, didn't do any audits, didn't raise any eyebrows, just rubber stamped these reimbursements. Once the payments hit, the spending began. Exotic vacations, luxury vehicles, expensive real estate, buying Rolexes, investing in crypto. It was a feeding frenzy of Medicare money with no regulators in sight. This fraud lasted 4 years. It was too easy and too profitable. And who was behind this? There's a few of them, but you have right here Smart Therapy Center that was in Minneapolis, founded by Aiza Hassan. The FBI says they billed $3.3 million in 2 years, most of it on the ghost sessions. They claimed that they were feeding 600 kids a day in a small office with no kitchen. Another one called Star Autism Center. This person billed more than $6 million, but let's talk about Governor Tim Walz. What was he doing while tens of millions of dollars were being looted?
GOP House Speaker Lisa Dameth and 3 Republican colleagues sent a letter to the Federal Office of Inspector General for Health and Human Services, requesting an audit of the Minnesota Department of Human Services because of Medicaid fraud happening on their watch.
Apparently, he didn't even know that the FBI was investigating until the reporters told him. So he's a governor, and the FBI raids 2 autism centers, and you find out on the news like everyone else. This is definitely a leadership problem. Walz's administration let a Medicaid program grow unchecked with no licenses, no site inspections, and 0 fraud detection tools in place. He should be embarrassed. He should be ashamed of himself and the administration for allowing this to even happen. FBI is raiding the clinics. DHS is hitting providers with surprise inspections. 85 centers are under active investigation, and new laws will finally license autism providers by 2027. Don't know why the delay is to 2027, but it is what it is. And now they're doing background checks now, because that must be some revolutionary concept. The problem is this should have never happened in the first place. And the kids, real autistic kids, were the ones getting screwed. Minnesota tried to do the right thing, but they did it with no brakes, no seatbelt, basically blinded. And now the state is doing damage control while fraudsters are laughing all the way to Dubai. This was a $700 million lesson in why good intentions without oversight is just government malpractice. This is one of the more craziest stories I've ever seen. Let me know what you guys' thoughts in the comments below on this story. If you're interested in this type of content, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.